Hey,
Gentlemen,
man. Say,
How's it going?
my favorite baker in the world.
How's it going?
Hey,
I'm great. How y'all doing?
Good,
man,
man.
good. I love your little cartoon before you came on.
It's
That was
awesome.
great. It goes,
Well, it looks very similar to me, which is not a very good complimentary type of thing.
We're talking about the Roundup, man. Talking about how good a weather we had last year and hoping for the same this year. It's what is it? First week in November. So
That's
you never
right.
know in Texas, but hopefully cooler weather.
yeah. So
I
today,
thought it was a great time last year. In fact, Jennifer, my wife, is coming this year. I told her about it last year and about is it Fredericksburg?
Yep.
And what a cool town it was, and all the fun stuff happening. So she's gonna come out there and work while I'm rounding up, and then we'll enjoy the nightlife.
I love it.
that's great. Well, I've got some big news for you. First off, everybody knows what we're talking about. The FedFis Roundup, man, that is a neat thing to do. All the innovative bankers come together and work on neat things, and it's in this really cool little town, and kind of west of Austin, about an hour, and everybody from Houston to Dallas, you name it, comes there, and it's just unique little shops all down Main Street, old timey kind of town, but real got I don't know what you'd call it, an eclectic vibe to it at the same time. But man, I'm glad to hear you're bringing your wife. I've kind of talked to a few bankers along the way that, you know, it's a pretty neat deal, and we're all busy while we're there, but stay a couple of days. It's a really neat place to hang out, and a lot of
We're coming early. We're coming in early.
Good.
well, and those little wineries just keep popping up everywhere. It's like the Texas
she's-
wine country.
Yeah, it's
And
cool.
she's a wine drinker. So my guess is my time to get from the airport to Fredericksburg won't be as good this year as it was last year.
I love
Oh,
it.
that's fun.
That's great.
Well, hey,
man.
congratulations. You guys just tipped the billion mark, and I know that's a big deal for any community banker to say, man, that's a milestone right there.
Yeah, it really is. And as I tell folks around here, we don't look or act or do anything a whole lot differently today than we did March the 1st. We were 995 million.
But now that
But
you're
it's just-
still a regular guy.
But we hope so. But it's just like you said, it's just hitting that mark. And you know, roughly 20% of the banks ever get above that mark. And I just think it shows relevance. It shows that you're important, and you got a growth mindset, which is not something necessarily a mutual bank, because we're a mutual, not something that every mutual necessarily holds true. And it's not about growth for growth's sake. It's just, I believe it shows your relevance, and it shows that we're out to do something different than perhaps most other mutuals are looking to do, even most other community banks are looking to do, which is to grow and continue to be not only relevant, but important parts of our customers' financial picture. And so, yeah, it was fun. You know, we pick up a few new regulatory hurdles. FDICIA comes into play at the same time CECL comes into play. So we got both of those visitors knocking on our front door, and our audit committee is getting ready to get a deep education in both of those acts that we'll be subject to on January the 1st. But you know, you can't stay back just because you're going to pick up a new regulation. You can't say, you know what, we're just going to stay at 950 million because I don't want to do FDICIA. We've got an alphabet soup of regulatory requirements now. I mean, kind of what's one more? Yeah, it's an important one, but it's not like we're entering regulatory territory that we've never dealt with before.
So about 2 years from now, when we hit the $10 billion,
Oh, a whole nother conversation.
Now, that's a whole nother conversation. I may have less hair then than I do now. It's just not easy to do.
Oh, that's great. So tell everybody how you did it. I mean, where was your growth coming from? What did you do different? I mean, you did this during a pandemic and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah. It was, you know, when I got here, we're 119 years old this year, Dave. And when I got here in September of 2019, so I'm coming up on 3 years, we were 99.5% mortgage bank. That's the traditional mutual model, right? You make mortgage loans and you have CDs or savings accounts on the other side of the balance sheet.
Right.
And our board, which is one of the reasons that attracted me to this role, our board knew that we needed to diversify our revenue stream if we were going to grow and continue to be relevant. That the model we had, while good, was not going to sustain us into the future. And so that's one of the reasons that I was attracted to the role. So when I got here, we had already started the process of dipping our toe into the commercial area. And we had commercial checking accounts, had not made any commercial loans per se. I came up out of the commercial side of the bank. I've run commercial teams. I've been a chief credit officer. I've been a chief sales officer. I was CEO of a bank that was predominantly commercial. And so I understood, I guess, the commercial side certainly a whole lot more than I did the mortgage side. And so, these last 2 years during the pandemic, Dave, we've done a record mortgage volume, and the mortgage portfolio has stayed virtually flat. And hats off to and I don't have a good looking hat like y'all do, but virtual hats off to our mortgage teams who have done over 100 million, which is a large volume for us over the last 2 years. And to not see the results on the scoreboard, it's hard because we haven't been able to grow that portfolio as the refinancing has just been horrific.
Yep.
That said, we're starting to see the end of that. And we've done it by really growing our commercial team. We went out and we hired several commercial bankers. We hired the head of commercial banking first. He came on board, brought in a couple of bankers. We expanded into Greensboro, a sister city here in Winston-Salem in the Triad with 2 bankers there, very experienced bankers. They have done a tremendous job. At the end of last year, we expanded into Lake Norman, which is north of Charlotte, arguably one of the hottest markets in North Carolina. Expanded there with a banker, just added our second one. In fact, he started last week. And our commercial is really what has been driving that growth. That and the fact that every bank has had liquidity on the deposit side come pouring in through the stimulus checks that the government sent out. So liquidity on the liability side, commercial growth on the asset side. And we're careful not to say, oh, all of our success is due to the commercial team. It's due to everybody because the mortgage team continued to have to produce. The mortgage processors continued to work countless hours getting all of this stuff done. But the true growth came in our commercial area. And we thought, guys, we were going to hit $1 billion. Our goal was to hit $1 billion by the end of 2023. So it was 1, 2, 3, 1 billion in 23. And we hit it in March of 22. So we're, 20-ish months ahead of schedule, and that's great. We high-fived each other and probably went out for a cold beverage, and now we're on to the next project.
Right, there you go. Yeah, those overachievers,
Yeah, I love when a plan comes together, man.
It did, and our team has done a tremendous job. The whole team has done a tremendous job. We did bring a commercial chief credit officer in May of last year. Started a year ago, roughly, to kind of help ride herd. That's a term y'all can understand. Ride herd over that commercial side because we were doing it by committee, and we were just running out of time. Needed some expertise. So Charles Ryan joined the team and has been a great addition to help really give guidance to that commercial focus.
Did y'all put any new software or technology in place to kind of facilitate that growth?
No, but we are looking. We do not have a front end commercial platform, if you will, to accept applications. So think of an Encino or some of the other platforms that are out there to intake commercial volume. We did not. That is something that is on our docket for 2023. As you all know, we'll talk about this in a minute, but as you all know, we're converting to Q2 here in the next 60 days for our digital platform, and that's taken up pretty much all the bandwidth of our IT team. They're like, David, we can't, we don't even want to relog your password in. Don't call us on anything else. So that's taken precedent right now. We did put in and installed a front end consumer portal, Meridian Link, to help us streamline equity lines and closed end consumer loans. We'll eventually turn that on for small business lending. So that'll be a piece of it. It won't be our standard commercial loan like an Encino would do, but it would be applicable for the small business owner out there that needs, a $20,000 line of credit or something like that. And so that's up and live on the consumer side right now, HELOCs and closed end consumer loans. And so far, we've been very pleased with that.
Can I ask you a weird one? It's one that
Yeah.
comes up all the time, and it's one I don't think we all talk enough about. And it's, how do you define a small business? I used to, in the old days, I always used number of employees, and I used 50. So below 50 is what we would call a small business, and anything above that. How do you guys define it? And if you're thinking specifically, right, I'm thinking software. And if we're going to be building products, right, I'm thinking about, hey, ACH and wire is probably enough with some permissions, right, for a small biz. And I mean, we're not going to be into account, reconciliation, the heavy stuff, right? And so where do you draw the lines for different products?
And that is a great
I
question.
don't think it's one we ask a banker often enough,
And I define it really in three buckets. I define it in sales volume, and in my loose definition is anyone under 5 million would be really a small business. Over 5 would be small to mid-size. And no one wants to be called small business, right? Although they should, because they should take pride. It's like community bank.
Yeah.
You should take pride in being a small business. I mean, there's 90+% of business entities out there are small businesses. And that's the backbone of our economy. And PPP loans prove that. That small businesses and community banks are critical to the success of our economy. Both those entities prove that. But the folks that may need a simple, we'll call it package, Tanner, of ACH, wire, and a simple checking account, typically under 5 million in sales. We're probably under 20 employees where we draw that line. And then credit needs, and that's the other. So it's employees, revenue, and credit needs. And you hate to just define it in credit because so many small businesses don't borrow. But when you're running a commercial credit portfolio, the complexity of the credit determines where that thing's going to sit. Because I don't want to underwrite a $3 million revolver secured by receivables and inventory with an automated piece of software. Somebody's got to look at that one. In fact, a couple of people won't have to look at that one. But someone that needs a $20,000 line of credit, and they've got 15 employees, and they've got $3 million in sales, we ought to, based on credit score and credit report of the owner and some few metrics like what's the volume running through their checking account, how much, when are they making their deposits, how much is flowing through their account, we ought to be able to approve up to a $25,000 credit facility using automation. So that's kind of our definition. And then above that, community banks were relationship banks. So we want to use software to make it easy while supplementing that with the direct conversation, which makes it personal.
I love
It's got to be easy and personal.
It's awesome.
Well, and that's okay. So this is great. As a small business guy, right? So when I worked at, big companies, Thompson and stuff, I mean, access to resources is like, you got a good idea, just throw money at the kid, he'll do great. Make us a lot of money. And then you start your own business, and there's a whole other world going on out here, and you're twice as good as you once were, but your access to capital is so much less. And you really got to walk softly, and you got to really plan and play way more conservative ball than what you normally would have been playing until you sign up. I think that 5 million mark's about fair. Or then, okay, you can kind of loosen the game up a little bit. But quick access to capital, the one thing I think a small business person doesn't have a lot of is time. They're trying to carry a lot of balls, carry a load on their back that other people have departments and other things to handle. Everything from payroll, sales, and fulfillment and all that.
I know I could go make $20,000 in a lot less time than it would take me to borrow $20,000.
That's a fact. That's a great point. Oh, I love
Maybe
that.
that's just us, right?
But think about that. If you're a small business guy, the time it would take me to go through a normal banking process to get, $20,000, $50,000, I could go make money faster than I could go do that.
But if you could do that in 15 minutes, at 5:30 in the morning, drinking a cup of coffee, and in 15 minutes, you're putting in your information, which is automatic populating, because you do this for existing customers, right? If someone off the street you don't know, you're probably not going to automatically approve them. But someone that's close to you in 15 minutes, then you can go out and make your $20,000. Plus, you've got $20,000 capital that took you 15 minutes. That's a pretty good return on investment of time.
I like it.
Well, and to your other point that, supplementing that with some level of a handshake, a relationship of some type, because the next round is not going to be 20,000. It's going to be, I need $1.5 million. And I want to grow this operation or launch this department or whatever it may be. And now we've hit the $10 million mark or whatever.
Yep.
And when those things happen, that's when you really want to have a great relationship built with the small business owner and grow on commercial. Hey, hats off to you guys. That's just brilliant the way you've done it. And it's such a milestone for your bank. I think it's great. And of course, it's obviously because he comes to Fredericksburg, goes to FedFis Roundup, and he's
That's
learned
it.
all great stuff and pow, right?
You bet, man.
No, I'm
Well,
kidding.
you sit there and you talk to these other bankers and you're talking to community bankers. All right, there's a First Bank of Fredericksburg is not across the street from me.
Right.
You're talking to bankers that you're not competing with. And why would you not get in that room and share all the best practices, share all the emerging ideas that
Right.
hey, I'm Mike Fernandez. I'm looking at something. I've not done it yet, but stay tuned. It's coming. Those types of conversations, those types of sharing, the Bankers Helping Bankers site that you all launched, those types of conversations are what allows community banks to succeed and compete against the bigs, because we got to band together
Right.
and compete against bigs. We don't have a fleet of folks looking at just the next mobile app. I mean, we're doing it. Wow. I just talked to Doug Stewart, our Chief Information Officer, who's in charge of this whole Q2 project. And he's going through an IT audit right now, which is part of our process. We don't have a fleet of people to address these. So why not get together in a room with smart people from across the country and share emerging ideas around FinTech, how we partner with FinTech, and how we compete better against the bigs and stay relevant. And it's not a competition against FinTechs per se, it's a competition against the big banks and how to partner with the right FinTechs. And y'all have a great lineup of folks that come to this thing, and the idea is to sit around with other bankers and drink a beverage and hear some music at Lukenbach and talk about, well, what are you doing about this? How are you automating fraud protection? How are you front end loading your commercial system? All of this stuff is just how we're going to succeed, right? It's how you going to get to the next billion. And I hope it doesn't take us 119 years to get to 2 billion. I don't think I got that much in me.
That's right. Hey, I'll tell you what, we had like on the first day, that thing, we have the innovation thing. That's what you talk about, Mike Fernandez, little bank in Sweetwater, Texas. We had Lauren Sparks just launched Agility Bank. Congratulations. And then Aaron Simpson, Encore. Well, what we do is kind of pick traditional sources of innovation on the first day. Second day is just cool technology things. Last day is the banking as a service, FinTech.
It's a nice transition.
So you're going to love this when you mentioned Mike Fernandez. So on the first day this year, we're going to have three banks that actually built, created, and launched a FinTech product of their own. And Mike's one of them. He's live now with Bankers Lenders. So
Yes.
So that's a pretty neat deal. So we'll have 3 bank board products on the first day. Okay. And your wife's going to like this part, right? So when we go to Lukenbach, Texas, we got free barbecue. It's a big Texas barbecue and free beer and all this. We're having the Bellamy brothers this year.
I know.
We learn as much as anybody. And but it's neat. You get to meet a lot of exciting people, and you're right. It's sharing of ideas. And one time, I think it was like the first year we did this thing, everybody was like raving about how this is so different and everything. And this one guy came over and said, "You know what you really did?" I'm like, "What?" There's no exhibit hall. I'm like, "Yeah, that was on purpose." And there's no this. And he said, "So really, you just took the vendors and the bankers, put them in a room and locked the door." And I was like, "For 3 days." Yeah, that's pretty much it. But here's what's cool. I'll bet you.
It keeps everybody honest on all sides.
I'll bet you $1. You've met some guys from God knows where, that when you see them, they're going to be like, "Hey," high-fiving each other. Bankers,
Absolutely.
they're non-competitive bankers are talking to each other with innovation ideas and things, and you become friends.
Heck yeah.
You can't stay 3 days together with people and not go, "Hey, I remember you from last night. You were the guy dancing with that girl. I remember," right?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So you just become friends with people, and it's a pretty neat thing altogether. Just happy to be part of it all and watch it happen.
Yeah.
I've called several that I met last year at the Roundup as we were looking at because crypto and blockchain and all of that is something that we've got to pay attention to. Now, we're not ready to launch our own cryptocurrency. We're not going to create our own blockchain, but those areas are spaces that bankers need to at least be paying attention to, whether you're going to launch or not, because it's coming. And it's not going away. And I know the Fed is going to figure out whether we're going to do a central bank digital currency or not. That's fine. But we can't just put our heads in the sand. I talk to a lot of bankers that do, and they're like, yeah, that's too risky. And I get it. Right now it is.
Yeah.
But you can't ignore it. It's like we don't want to cross a billion because there's regulation. You can't ignore it. We're in the business of identifying and mitigating risks. So we can't ignore it. And as we played with this stuff, I've called some of the guys that were there last year to figure this stuff out.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You get a chance to, let's say that, okay, we're ready to do something. Okay, we're all excited. What do? You can learn that. If you're just saying, I just want to learn about, I tell you what, if they're going to be passing regulations and where it's going to be a commodity, I damn sure want to be, that isn't the day I want to start trying to figure this out.
Right.
I want to learn all along the way. So when I'm listening to these words, they're not new vocabulary words to me. I understand how it all works now. And it doesn't take a lot of time when you're talking to people that aren't trying to sell you anything and just trying to explain it to you. It's like, oh, okay, I get it. And that's a lot easier way to do it.
The coolest thing for us, I feel like it's cheating, man, but everybody, I mean, it's unbelievable how many calls that we get from everybody, right?
Yeah.
They're like, hey, I'm thinking of this crazy idea. Or if I was to do something silly like XYZ, how would you go about it, right? Or do you have any data on this? And so we get sort of the pulse of the market where everybody's talking about and thinking about and wanting to do, and you just get a feel for it, where it's really rare that I catch a wild curveball that I haven't heard or thought of,
Yeah.
And y'all wouldn't even believe the crazy things that I sit around and think about all day, right? Just watching all the parts and pieces, but you get a good feel for what's going on. I think that's important.
Well, there's things we're working on right now that about a year from now, we're probably going, oh my God.
Well,
but it's just things that you're right. We sit around and think weird stuff. And
to the point, we got to band together, and I think keeping a pulse on what does that mean?
right.
That's hard, a pretty hard concept, and having an idea of what's everybody talking about, where's everybody focused, and then be able to put the players together. That's a task. I know I take a lot of phone calls every day.
When we were looking at our moving our digital platform, and we're a Fiserv core bank, and I know everything about the three big cores, and I do believe they're trying to get more innovative, and there's still a place, I think, for a core provider. But you've got to be able to bolt in and through APIs, use some other fintechs. And as we were looking at new digital platforms, y'all are who we called. Picked up the phone and said, hey, can you help us figure this out? And, y'all beat around the bush a lot. We never really know where you fully stand. I say that jokingly. I say that jokingly. It was the unvarnished truth. All right, here's what's good about this. Here's what's not good about this. Here's what's good about this one. Here's what's not good about this one. Here's where you need to pay attention for your bank. Here are the questions you need to be asking. And that's what we got when we called y'all, when we went out and talked to these other banks at the Roundup, is the unvarnished truth. That's how you make great decisions. I don't need code. I can't figure this stuff out. I need unvarnished truth, which the Mayos understand how to deliver that.
I don't want to tell anybody their business, I want to tell you what we see as the deals, and then you guys got to figure out what's good.
We don't do consulting. We don't write RFPs. We just tell people the answers to the questions.
There you go.
Move on.
And that's what the value was. And that led our decision process. And I would say that process was probably unlike other decision-making loops that this bank had done in many years. And we all got around and we'd heard all the evidence was on the table, right? And then we talked about where everybody was leaning, somewhat of a straw poll, and no one was passionate about their choice. And I said, all right, we're going to stop this call. And this was in an afternoon. And tomorrow morning, we're going to get on the phone at 8:15 and sleep on it, do yoga on it, or get the Ouija board out, whatever it is that you need to do. And tomorrow we're going to get in here and figure this out. And everyone came in there convicted and knew which was opposite of the straw poll we had taken the day before, convicted of the direction we need to go. So it was an outstanding process, thanks in large part by the honest and brutal fact sharing that you all helped us with.
I love it, man. Look, I'll even know the one more, man. I've watched, you over the years at multiple places, right? And I think there's something we all need to touch on with technology and innovation. It's the people and the expertise and the experience, And so if you I look at your bank, and everything we just talked about today. And I see you, man, it's like technology is not the major game changer solution. We need to get rock star people. We need to make sure that they're educated and everybody knows what's going on. And then once we know what we're trying to do, we can automate those processes, right? But we got to have the knowledge in the process in the first place.
We talked about how technology, you got to make it easy, but also make it personal. Same with bankers helping bankers. It makes it easy to now have all this information at your fingertips, which then allows you to reach out and make it personal. Well, how did you do this in Sweetwater, Texas? And how did you do this in LaGrange or wherever the case may be?
Right. Well, and that's what you'll find too. People like, you mentioned Mike Fernandez a couple of times. These people are great people. They're smart people. They're leaning forward. They're like you said, trying to educate, trying to learn, trying to help each other. And that's the only way this is going to move. If we sit around and we wait for the big nationals or the big consulting firms to coach us and show us the way. Let me just say this. It's worked so damn well for the last 30 years, right? We should probably keep doing that.
Yeah.
Well, and that we take that responsibility upon ourselves.
If you think that a vendor and a software product is a better banker than you are, we're all in a lot of trouble, right? That's right.
I'm going to go cook barbecue full time if that's the case.
You bet, man.
All right,
that's
man.
great.
Hey, any parting thoughts, any great words of advice for bankers out there or vendors, or what are you thinking, man? Are you scared right now with the economy?
I'm concerned. I won't say I'm scared. This is not the first time we've seen inflation. It's the first time many of the younger bankers have seen a rising rate environment and inflationary pressures, but this is not the first time I've been in a rising rate environment. It's not the first time we've had a threat of a recession. I am concerned that we've got to fight inflation. I'm concerned that we're going to get too aggressive fighting inflation and raise rates too far, too fast, which is going to have the opposite effect on it. And we're positioning our balance sheet right now to help alleviate some of that. We hold all of our mortgages on the balance sheet, so that makes the sensitivity analysis very, very unnerving in a rising rate environment. That said, we've got a great strategy. Our CFO just emailed me a few minutes ago that we're implementing to help negate some of that. These are certainly tricky times, but I don't think they're any trickier than the Great Recession. We got through that, albeit bumped and bruised. We got through the pandemic a little less bumped, a little less bruised, but certainly a challenging time. We'll get through this, and it's because you got good folks. You got smart folks. I'm not one of them, but I know people that know smart folks, and so that's the trick. And if you start sharing these ideas together across the county line, across the state line, then I believe that's the trick to succeeding is doing just that. It's the trick to being relevant and being important in a very changing landscape. Everyone can't bank with the big banks. Everyone doesn't want to bank with the big banks. Right. We got to band together with smart people and share great ideas, which is what you all help facilitate. That's what's going to make us successful.
The one thing that everybody seems to consistently say is, you know what? There's more of us than there are of them. If we get together and speak as one and work together as one unit, we're going to kick their ass. I believe that.
Yeah.
Agreed. I need to go buy a pair of boots so I can do some of that kicking before I get out there.
All right, man. We'll see.
The wingtips don't work as well.
Yeah. So good to talk to you, and I appreciate your time.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
We thank you, and I can't wait to see you in Texas, man. I wish it were next week. I'm ready, but we'll wait for the weather to cool off a little bit so we all have a great time.
All right, man. We'll look forward to it.
We'll see you in November.
See ya.
Yeehaw. Bye.
Yeehaw.